Morning, everyone. It is Saturday, April 18th. Yeah, okay, got the date there. That's good. It's a pretty dreary day here in the coastal Maine area, but with that being said, I'm hoping it clears up and gets nicer so I can enjoy some outdoor time without being wet and cold. Yeah, I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe. Be positive. And I say that while keeping in mind that it's easier said than done for a lot of people. But I think what I'm trying to really say is that if you can implement a positive thought or action in your day, then maybe you can build off that and it will manifest into some better things to come with, everything that's going on right now. There's a lot of people struggling. So there's things you can do. You can help, your local food bank. There's a great organization called the Locker Project, which caters and helps support children in need when it comes to food. So if you do a little research about that, that is something that just could help the overall situation, uplift people's spirits. So anyway, I'm here to read again. I'm going to read How to Stay Alive in the Woods by Bradford, Angiers. I'm going to read from chapter 12, a chapter called Choice of Clothing. So I'm going to get going and begin. The necessities of life are food, shelter, warmth, and clothing. When we have obtained these, it is claimed there is an alternative to struggling for luxuries. That is to take on the adventure of life itself, our vacation from humbler toil having commenced. Not everyone will agree with such philosophy, although I was fortunate enough to find no reason for disputing it when I went to the wilderness to live, and I may at least answer the questions of a few to note that we have never regretted the decision not to waste what we are called the best years of our life earning money in order to enjoy a questionable freedom during the least valuable part. The sequence of events precipitated by this decision to change our lives included the resignation from an editorial position, departure from a city, which in my case happened to be Boston, and the heading with duffel bags to where meat would be free for the hunting, fish for the catching, fuel for the felling, land for the settling, and a home for the fun of building. The wilderness will even furnish clothing, we found, although the gift is in the same category as that involving the ability to build fires without matches. Whenever possible, in some matters, it is expeditious to accept as much of an asset from civilization as may be available without becoming helplessly dependent on anything that at some time may not be obtainable. So this part is called Wool or What? The chances are that most of us will have had certain latitude of choice as to clothing we may be wearing, if ever, upon our resources to live as best as we can off the country. We will certainly have the freedom to choose what clothes we'll include in any survival kit we may prepare before we set out. Taste and circumstances vary, so it's certainly due means. There are certain general considerations, however, that may profitably be taken into account. Virgin wool, to evaluate materials broadly, is generally the safest choice for at least outer clothing if keeping warm is likely to be any problem. Even during such an extreme procedure as tracking a canoe up through rapids too shallow for poling, wool clings warmly as contrasted to the clamminess of synthetics and cottons. How heavy the wool fabric should be will depend to a large extent on climate. This part is called waterproofs. Waterproof raiment, as for example, an off-silk shirt so thin that it may be easily carried in a breast pocket, can, if you are at all active, make you a lot more uncomfortably wet in very short time than you'd get by staying out in the rain for a much longer period in an ordinary mackinaw. Except in the cold weather, when such a result can be fatal, or under circumstances when undermining strength, it can be dangerous. The matter has to do with individual ideas of comparative disagreeableness, and in one personal choice. A mistake to avoid. It is not reasonable to say to buy this or to take that, for body thermostats vary, this being one reason why some of us cannot seem to become adjusted to the tropics, while others are in proportion just as miserable in polar regions. An error to avoid in any event is the very common mistake of dressing too warmly in cold weather. Yeah, you always want to be able to have proper clothing so you can take layers off and not be without clothing to put layers on if you're too cold. So yeah, with that being said, it's all about balancing the core of your body's temperature and thermostat, in my opinion and experience. Not only is the rate of such perspiring increased by clothing that is too warm, but unless the garb is loose and open enough to permit the escape of this moisture, it can in cold climates freeze within the garments. The result at best will be uncomfortable, while at worst it can so nullify qualities of insulation as to be fatal. It follows, therefore, that in frigid weather, one's clothes should be shaken and brushed as free as possible of both external and internal frost, as well as any other moisture, congealed or otherwise, before one approaches heat. When an individual can do so, clothing should furthermore, under such conditions, be removed and dried each night. And then some of the prior stuff I read goes back to the ability to keeping your matches dry, building a fire, just staying warm and safe. So again, I think this was, I skipped a couple weeks of doing any reading, a lot of stuff just happening or not happening. But yeah, peace and everybody stay safe. Thank you.